Cops and other first responders, tell us about times you felt something paranormal or supernatural might have been going on. I used to be an EMT and firefighter. One night we got a call to do a welfare check on someone who dialed 911 but wasn't responding to the dispatcher. We showed up at the house. It felt off. A tiny elderly lady greeted us at the door. We asked if she knew who might have called 911. She said she lived alone ever since her husband passed. Nothing seemed wrong, so we left. We had barely made it back to the station when another call came in. Same address, same situation. We went back, talked to her again, same story. Then it happened a third time. Same address, no response on the line. This time when we got there, no one met us at the door. We knocked, no answer. The door was unlocked. We found her collapsed on the floor, not breathing. We performed CPR, got her stabilized, and rushed her to the hospital. In the ambulance, once she came to, she swore she never called us. She said we got there just minutes after she passed out. But the drive from the station to her house was 15 minutes. Before we dropped her off, she asked if we could bring her some knitting needles and clothes from home. I told her I'd grab them since I was heading near her neighborhood anyway to see a friend. So I pick up my friend and we go to her house. I run inside to get the bag. As I'm leaving, I feel a hand touch my back and hear a voice whisper, "Thank you." When I get back to the car, my friend asks, why didn't her husband bring the stuff to the hospital? I say, "What are you talking about? Her husband's dead." He goes pale and says, "Then who was that old man smiling and waving to me from the window?" I didn't want to believe anything paranormal was happening, so I called the cops to check the house. Figured someone broke in. They found nothing, no one inside, all clear. Later, we brought her the things at the hospital. My friend starts describing the man in the window, and before he can finish, she starts crying. "That's Harold," she says. "That's my Harold." Man, I'm tearing up even thinking about it. It's easy to dismiss ghost stories until something like this happens to you. I'm an EMT. One night, we got dispatched to a local shopping center. When we got there, it turned out an 8-year-old girl was having trouble breathing. It was late at night. Her mom, aunt, and cousin had just been caught shoplifting. We figured the breathing issue was stress-related. We loaded her into the ambulance, and as soon as we were in, the girl looked both me and my partner dead in the eyes and said, "The place I live in is bad. I'm surrounded by demons." I swear, the moment she said the word demons, her heart rate dropped from 90 to 45 beats per minute in seconds. My partner and I locked eyes like, what the hell is going on? We immediately tried to calm her down and lighten the mood. Eventually, she stabilized, but I will never forget that moment. Edited to add, as soon as we got her stable, we did notify the police right away. Not my story, but it seriously freaked me out when I read it. An elderly lady called 911 and asked for a few officers to come to her house. She said she'd seen a strange figure lurking in her backyard. She lived alone, and that night she felt unsafe after seeing a shadowy figure outside her window. When the police arrived, the front door was unlocked. They entered the house and found the old woman sitting in a chair, facing the window. The officers went to check the backyard. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing had been stolen. A tall fence surrounded the house, making it nearly impossible for anyone to get in. However, the cops did find signs that someone had been inside. It's very possible she left the door unlocked, and what she saw in the window wasn't outside, but the reflection of someone behind her, inside the house. I was stationed in Afghanistan, pulling guard duty one night. Suddenly, I turned toward a nearby field and saw what looked like a massive panther. Thing had to be at least 30 feet long. My heart started pounding like crazy. I was about to radio it in, until I realized I hadn't adjusted the depth perception on my night vision goggles. Turned out, it was just a regular house cat, maybe 16 inches long, sitting on the edge of the guard post. Best day of that cat's life. So yeah, I once scared the hell out of a Marine. Good times. Probably the funniest moment in my life. Well, except maybe the time I dropped a hairball into his coffee mug, or that time I batted grenades off the table. That was fun too. I'm a paramedic and firefighter. One late summer night, we got dispatched to a rural area. My partner and I were driving along this winding 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere. No lights except our headlights and the moon. We came up on a sharp right turn when I saw a man moving through the tall grass. He was gliding fast and smooth, like he was standing on a bicycle. His upper body and arms weren't bouncing like you'd expect from someone running. I froze for a second, trying to process what I was seeing. A dude just coasting through the grass on an invisible bike. Weird, but okay. Then he got to a tree and stopped, right around the time we passed by him. I look out the window and see him standing next to the tree. No bike, nothing. He's just standing there staring at the passing truck. My hair stood on end. We kept driving, and I finally worked up the nerve to ask my partner if he'd seen that guy. His response, "Dude, I thought I was losing my damn mind." That moment is hard to explain. And yeah, maybe it was just a coincidence, but I still don't tell that story to other people on the job. For a while, I worked homicide investigations. We handled every suspected suicide just to make sure it wasn't actually a murder. Usually we could determine a motive. There'd be a note or some kind of sign the person intended to take their own life. Like this one guy who literally taped a note to his chest that said, "Well, you happy now, bitch?" He staged the whole thing so that his wife would be the first to find his body after he hanged himself. But sometimes we'd get cases where everything pointed to suicide. No signs of foul play, but there was no note, no clear reason. The person would be in good health, had a stable job, a seemingly happy home life. But you never really know what's going on in someone's head. Now here's the case that still gives me chills. Over my career, I dealt with about 10 suicides where there was no obvious motive. But in the last 3 of those cases, I found the same exact object at the scene. A small decorative woven lighthouse. Same design every time, painted white and blue. The first time, it stood out to me because it was sitting right beside the bed where the body lay. But 2 weeks later, I saw that same damn lighthouse at another suicide scene. I even mentioned the coincidence to the patrol officer on site. A few months after that, I was called to investigate another suicide, and there it was again. Same woven lighthouse. That's when it clicked for me. All of these were the unexplained ones, the ones that just didn't make sense. I went back to the station and started reviewing photos from every suicide scene I'd worked. In 2 of them, I saw what might have been that same lighthouse, but the camera angles weren't great and there was too much clutter around to be sure. I don't know, guys, something about it felt seriously creepy. But a couple months later, I transferred to another department and stopped thinking about it. Edited. You're asking, could it have been a serial killer? Honestly, I really doubt it. These were all clear suicides, most of which had no reasonable alternative explanation. We always approached every suicide as if it were a homicide. An apparent suicide is almost always just that, a suicide. But we double-check regardless. Also, while there are actually more serial killers out there than you'd think, they rarely leave calling cards or anything like that, contrary to what movies like to show. Usually it's just some messed up guy with a very specific pattern. I honestly think this was just a really weird coincidence. But man, it was creepy as hell. Dude, at this rate, you're gonna wake up one night and see that damn woven lighthouse sitting on your nightstand. I'd off myself right then and there. You better find that damn thing and burn it. It never occurred to me it might be the same lighthouse. I just assumed it was some kind of seasonal decoration, probably something sold at a local pottery store. I worked EMS for a while. One time we got a call about a guy on a motorcycle, no helmet, flying at insane speed, who slammed into a car. We arrived quickly. Even though it was a Saturday and this happened in the middle of a suburban area, not a single person came to check on him. Seriously, the streets were dead empty. Normally you'd expect a crowd of onlookers in a case like this, but not this time. Anyway, the guy had a massive skull fracture, no signs of life. I'd never seen a head injury that bad before. From our initial assessment, severe skull trauma, a concussion, and significant bleeding. He was also missing some teeth and had major abrasions from sliding on the asphalt. Luckily, his skin wasn't totally torn off. To give you an idea of how bad it was the kind of injury most people don't survive. And if anyone did survive it, they'd be a vegetable for the rest of their life. In a normal situation, we would have moved him off the road onto the sidewalk. But with a head or neck injury, moving someone like that is extremely dangerous. My partner, who was more experienced in kind of training me since I was still the new guy, went to check the guy's pulse while I started unloading our gear. He knelt down, held his finger on the guy's pulse for a while, then stood up and was just about to say something, when suddenly this dude just freaking jumped up. And I mean jumped up, he didn't push himself up with his arms or anything. He just freaking sprang to his feet. My partner and I were scared shitless. The guy looked at us, smiled, and tried to pick up his bike. We tried to stop him, but considering his condition, we didn't want to get physical. He ran off into the woods and just left his bike there. My partner was even more freaked out than I was. He stood there with his mouth open, staring after the guy. Then he turned to me and mumbled, "Dude, he didn't have a fucking pulse." I asked if he was sure, and he swore on everything he had that the guy was clinically dead. We contacted the authorities and they sent out a search and rescue team into the woods. I have no idea if they ever found him because we usually don't get any follow-up info once patients are handed off to the doctors. My best guess? The guy had some kind of mental breakdown and decided to head to his lover's house or something. People with serious head trauma usually bleed like crazy, so I'm assuming he left a long red trail through the forest that the cops could track. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're a cop or work in law enforcement, drop a comment below and share any stories you've got where things felt paranormal or straight up supernatural. And don't forget to check out our other episodes.